Story 1. The pizza that wasn't ordered. It was my fourth delivery of the night. Nothing unusual. I worked for a small, locally owned pizza place in a quiet Ohio suburb. Most nights were boring. This one, I wish it had stayed that way. Around 9:20 p.m., the phone rang. The order came in under the name Mark G. One large pepperoni, cash payment. Nothing weird. I checked the system. Mark had ordered from us before, but not recently. The address was just outside the usual delivery zone, but the manager said, "It's slow, just take it." I grabbed the pizza, hopped in my car, and drove through the foggy streets. As I got closer, things felt off. The houses were more spaced out. No streetlights. Trees lined both sides of the road like silent watchers. The GPS led me to a small one-story home at the end of a cul-de-sac. No lights were on. I double-checked the address. It matched. I parked, took the pizza, and walked up to the porch. No doorbell. I knocked. Silence. I knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. I pulled out my phone to call the number, but there was no contact info, just the address. That was odd. I knocked a third time. Finally, the door opened. A man in his 50s stood there, wearing a robe. His face was slack, almost confused. Behind him, the house was pitch black. "Mark G?" I asked. He blinked slowly. "Pizza." "Yeah." "Large pepperoni." $14.75. He stared at me like I'd just asked him to recite Shakespeare. Then said, "I didn't order any pizza." There was a long pause. "You didn't?" I asked. "This is 4724 Hawthorne, right?" He nodded. I showed him the receipt on the box. "That's my address. But I didn't order this." He took the pizza anyway, almost on autopilot. I tried to explain. Maybe someone else in the house had ordered. "No one else lives here," he said. Something about his voice gave me chills. It was flat, mechanical. I walked back to my car, glancing over my shoulder. The man was still standing in the doorway, just watching me. No reaction, no expression. I got in, locked the doors, and pulled up the order history on my work app. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach twist. The order wasn't there. No Mark G, no Hawthorne address. No record of me ever picking up that pizza. I sat in my car staring at the empty order log. Maybe I had selected the wrong filter. I refreshed the app. Still no sign of the order. I called my manager. "Hey, weird question. Do you have a record of a Mark G, 4724 Hawthorne?" There was a pause. "No, that name doesn't show up tonight." "Why?" "I just delivered a pizza there. You told me to go." "Dude, I never sent you to Hawthorne. We didn't even get an order from there." I checked the pizza receipt again. It looked legit. Printed, just like the others. But the timestamp was strange. 9:13 p.m. I had left the store at 9:10. That meant it printed while I was already driving. I zoomed in on the receipt. The font looked just slightly different. I was about to text a photo of it to my manager when something made me stop. A shape. In the rearview mirror, a figure was standing in the middle of the street behind my car. Frozen. Watching. It was too dark to make out details, but I knew it was the same man from the porch. Only now, he wasn't wearing a robe. He was in all black. I hit the gas. I didn't stop until I was back in town. Later that night, I checked online for any info on that house. Property records showed it had been vacant for over 3 years. The last owner, Mark Gordon. He died in 2020. From then on, I refused to take any unverified orders, no matter how slow the night was. But every now and then, I still think about that pizza box. Who printed the receipt? And more importantly, who was really watching me from the shadows that night? Story 2. Wrong house, right fear. It was a Saturday night during a freak thunderstorm. Most drivers had clocked out early, but I stayed on for the extra tips. People get desperate when it's raining, and they don't want to leave the house. My phone buzzed with an order from a user named Ella C. 2 burgers, fries, and a milkshake. What was strange? The location pinned in the app wasn't near any houses. It dropped in the middle of a back road surrounded by woods. At first, I assumed GPS had glitched, but the customer had left a note. Come down the gravel path. White house. Leave food on front porch and knock twice. Please don't wait. Creepy? A little, but I figured maybe they lived on some private land. I followed the app down winding streets until the pavement ended. Then it turned into gravel, just like the instructions said. There was no signal out here, no street signs, just trees and fog and the sound of rain on the windshield. After 5 minutes, I saw it, a small white wooden house barely lit by the headlights. The place looked abandoned, paint peeling, windows boarded from the inside, no lights. Still, I pulled up, left the car running, and grabbed the bag. I walked up the steps, knocked twice on the weather-warped door, and turned to leave. That's when I saw something. A handprint. On the side window, smeared into the dirty glass. It was large, fresh, like someone had just pressed their hand to the window from inside. Goosebumps crawled up my neck. I hurried back to the car, tossed the food onto the passenger seat, and turned around. But before I could drive, my phone buzzed. No signal, yet somehow a message had come through. You forgot to knock. I stared at it. My hand tightened around the steering wheel. I swear I had knocked. Twice. I looked at the house. One of the boards on the window had shifted, just slightly. I floored it, kicking up gravel and sliding onto the main road. Back at the restaurant, I told my manager everything. He laughed. You sure you weren't just freaking yourself out? I pulled out the delivery receipt to show him the location. But the receipt, it had a different name. Not Ella C. It said Richard M. I pulled up the delivery logs in the system. There was no order for that address. Not under Ella. Not under Richard. Nothing. I stood there in the back office of the restaurant, staring at the receipt that didn't make sense. Richard M. Different name. Same time. Same items, but a different delivery ID. One that didn't even exist in our system. Maybe the app glitched, my manager said with a shrug. Or maybe you were tired. But something was wrong. Deeply wrong. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing that handprint, that message, that shifting board on the window. There was no way it was all in my head. So the next morning, after sleeping maybe 2 hours, I drove back to the area. I told myself I just wanted closure, that if I saw it in daylight, I'd realize it was just a creepy old house and nothing more. But when I turned off the main road onto that gravel path, it was gone. Not the house, the path itself. There was no gravel road, just thick forest on both sides. No opening, no turnoff, no tire marks. I drove past 3 times, thinking I'd made a mistake. I hadn't. I finally pulled over and walked into the woods where I swore the path had been. And after about 10 minutes of walking, I found it. The house. Except now, in daylight, it looked worse. Way worse. The windows weren't just boarded. They were nailed shut from the outside. There were chains on the front door. Rusted. Old. And there was no porch. Just rotted steps that ended in splinters. There was no way I had walked up those last night without falling through. I stepped closer and noticed something on the ground. A burger bag. The same kind we use at the restaurant. Still sealed. Still warm. My hand shook as I picked it up. Inside was the receipt, but now it had my name on it. Not Ella. Not Richard. Just me. And something else. A note, scribbled in the margins. Thanks for stopping by. You'll be back soon. That's when I heard the door creak. Slow, dry, wood against wood. I turned and ran. No looking back. I didn't stop running until I got back to my car. I haven't taken a delivery outside the city since. I told myself maybe it was just a sick prank, a bad dream. But I still have that bag. I keep it in a locked box under my bed. Not because I want to remember it, but because the receipt still changes names every few weeks. And last week, it changed again. It now says, "You're late." Story 3. The basement tip. I used to deliver for a service that let customers tip after the food was dropped off. Sometimes it worked out great. Other times, not so much. One Friday night, I got a notification at 10:42 p.m. A $75 sushi order to a neighborhood I didn't recognize. High-end stuff. And the best part, the promised tip, $30 if you follow the instructions exactly. That was unusual, but tempting. The delivery address was a modest 2-story house near the edge of the city. Pretty average looking. White siding, brown shutters, an old blue pickup in the driveway. All the lights were off except a dim one in the basement window. The app had a customer note. "Come to the side door, basement entrance. Leave food on the table just inside. No need to wait." I double-checked the address. Matched. The basement door was on the right side. Down a short set of concrete stairs. Old wooden door, slightly cracked open. I hesitated. This wasn't my first weird delivery, but something about this felt off. Still, I wanted that $30 tip. I stepped down, opened the door slowly. The basement was surprisingly clean. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. There was a wooden table in the center, just like the instructions said. I placed the sushi bag down, turned to leave. Then I heard something. Creaking floorboards. Upstairs. I froze. I was told no one would meet me, so why was someone walking above? I tiptoed back up the stairs, but before I could open the door, it slammed shut. From the other side, I jiggled the handle. Locked. My heart raced. I banged on the door. "Hello." No answer. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Then, footsteps. Coming down the stairs above me. Slow, heavy. Each step thudded through the ceiling like a drumbeat. I backed away from the door. There was no other exit. Then I heard a whisper. So quiet I almost thought I imagined it. "He's in." The whisper echoed like it came from the walls themselves. I pressed against the corner, every muscle in my body locked. The ceiling creaked above me as the footsteps drew closer. Then silence. No more steps, no sound, just the buzz of the old fluorescent light overhead and my own breathing, fast and shallow. I tried the door again, still locked. That's when the bulb above me flickered. Once, twice. Then it blew out with a sharp pop, plunging the basement into total darkness. I froze. No light, no window, just pitch black nothing. Then I heard it again. Breathing. Not mine. Deep, slow, raspy. Somewhere in the room with me. I fumbled with my phone, trying to turn on the flashlight. My fingers shook so hard I nearly dropped it. Light flared up. I spun in a circle. The basement looked the same. Table, food bag, old shelving, empty. But then I saw it. In the corner, behind the boiler. Eyes. Two pale glints, just above the ground. Watching. I stepped back and hit the table. The bag of sushi fell. I didn't care. I bolted toward the basement door, hammering on it with my fists. Let in, maybe out. Nothing. Then a click. Not from the door. From behind me. I turned. The eyes were gone. I slowly scanned the room. That's when I noticed something had been written on the wall, in thick black marker, hidden behind some pipes. USHOULDNTAV. I felt something brush my leg. I screamed, pointing my light downward. Nothing. Just a length of wire. No. Rope. Looped into a noose. Had that been there before? No way. Suddenly, the basement door creaked open behind me. I turned and ran up the stairs 2 at a time, slamming into the doorframe. I didn't stop until I was in my car, gasping for air. I called the police. They searched the house. No one was inside, but the officers said something strange. The house, it had been vacant for over a year. The previous owner, a man in his 60s, had died of a heart attack. Found in the basement, food bags still beside him. The sushi was from the same restaurant I worked for. They showed me a photo. I nearly dropped it. The food bag in the image had my name on it, my delivery ID, same as the one from tonight. Except the photo was dated 6 months ago, before I even started the job. I quit that week, and I never deliver to basements, ever again. But sometimes I dream of that basement, and in the dream, I'm still trapped down there, as if I never made it out at all.